Okay, good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Folkestone and Hythe District and Parish Council's Joint Committee. Please note this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. Please could all members ensure their microphone is set to mute unless they are speaking to reduce any background noise. We will move now to the first item on the agenda, which is the election of the chair. The committee must nominate a district chair. Please can I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Mike Blakemore for the chair this evening.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Blakemore, you are elected as chair.
Thanks, Joe. So next item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We have one from Councillor Prater, I believe. Any other apologies?
We have apologies from Councillor Burgess, and we also have apologies from Councillor Anne Beals with Mike for substituting.
Okay, thank you very much. On to declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest, please?
Nothing from me, thank you, Mike.
Not me.
And the minutes of the last meeting. Is everybody happy with the minutes of the last meeting and to agree those as an accurate record from last time?
Great.
Agreed?
I've spoken to Councillor Bill and she's agreed, yeah.
Agreed. There we go. Whistled through those first items. Now on to the main event, which is to look at the corporate plan and the consultation for the new corporate plan, which has been launched this very day. So very pleased to welcome Ewan Green. I'm assuming that's what you're here for, Ewan. So talk to that item. There's a presentation, I believe, isn't there? So how do we do this, Joe? Have you got the presentation there to take for Ewan to take us through?
I think scarily, Mike, I've got partial control of this.
So very good. I'm relieved to hear it. Relieved to hear it. So you're going to talk us through this. Ewan, do you want questions at the end or as we go?
So my presentation tonight is really going to be a bit of a review of how we've got so far down the line with the plan at the moment, then a bit about the themes and priorities that are coming out, but not in huge detail, just to cover, and then more about the consultation process. I can't see everybody on the screen, but I'm happy to take questions at any point if that's helpful, or at the end. So either way doesn't bother me, as long as, I don't know if Alex, can you see the everybody on the screen? That would help if you could manage the questions.
Yes, I can see everyone.
Well, I should have introduced you properly, Ewan, but does everybody know who Ewan is and what his role at the council is? It might be worth you introducing yourself, Ewan.
You're right. Sorry, I should have done that because I have been a number of times before, but I think my role possibly changed since then. So I'm Ewan Green. I'm one of the directors at the council, and my title is Director of Strategy and Resources, which covers a whole number of things, including planning and legal, planning policy. And for tonight, it's about the council's corporate plan, its business planning process, and how we go about that. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation, a few slides to go through, and then we've, as Mike said, we've actually launched the consultation on the corporate plan today. So I can also click into our website links to show you where that is on the web page and show you the survey that I'm going to talk about, just to make it a little bit more real for you tonight. Because the whole idea about today was really just about raising awareness, and we will be writing out to all parish councils and town councils with a bit more of a briefing on the corporate plan, and encouraging you all to reach out to your members and your residents to respond to the consultation process. Right, so if I just go straight into this, hopefully this is going to work. Share. Right, so let's see where are we now. Let's see if I can get this working. Oh, can everyone see that? I'm just trying to get into full screen. How's that? Okay.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, so yeah, I'll cover a little bit about our approach and our timeline. I want to talk a little bit about something a bit unusual, the UN sustainability goals that will become a bit clearer as I go through the presentation, but it's something which our leadership of the council are very keen that the sustainability goals underpins our corporate plan and how we do things as a council moving forward. I'll talk about the emerging themes and priorities that we're consulting on, and then talk about our consultation and the approach to that. So, I mean, it goes without saying that the corporate plan really is about what the council does. It's our business plan, if you like. But importantly for the administration, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the council administration, but working with them on this, this is really important around shaping the future of the district for residents and businesses. I think important to kind of say at the start, most of what the council does is about statutory services and done by law. We do a number of things that are services we provide that aren't legally required, and we do other things in terms of projects and special projects, for example, in terms of regeneration, where we do things because we have the opportunity to do so. So when we get into corporate planning, we try to cover all of these things, but very much the foundation stone of everything we think about and do is around our statutory duties. The council, staff and councillors, we do focus on the long term at times, and our resources and projects that we deliver, we bring together in an action plan. And I think the action plan bit is the doing bit of the corporate plan. And that's what we report to members and yourselves in terms of parish councils, town councils, and the public. That's where we report our performance on a regular basis. So we have the high-level corporate plan, but there's an action plan below that, which sets out what we do. And I think it's fair to say that a large portion of what we do, 85% of what we do, won't change in principle. But in terms of corporate plan and the focus of how we do it might change. And we have a current corporate plan published in 2021, but had a review penciled in for 2024. And of course, following, I think, a change in administration last year, it was felt now is the time to focus on a new corporate plan. So what have we been doing so far about this? Well, we started in March, where the council leader, Jim Martin, established a member working group. He chairs that, and it includes members of all groups on the council, and actually Councillor Paul Thomas, as an independent member as well. And we've worked, officers and members have worked together from March through to this point to consider what the council does, what our previous corporate plan said, what the conditions are that we're working within at the moment, and obviously the financial position is paramount in all of that. And we're not, so there is a kind of real a rider over all of this, that everything we have to do, we do has to be done within our financial framework and our budget. So we've been working to develop a set of themes and priorities, and then go out to consultation over the summer. So at this point, we've been to Cabinet last week, where Cabinet agreed the themes and priorities and the consultation plan that I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. And so from this point on, so at the end of July through to the end of September, it's really about consultation. After that, September, October, it's about assessing what's come in from the consultation, thinking about action plans, thinking about what the draft corporate plan looks like, and importantly, though, we start aligning that with our council budget process, because whilst we don't set the budget until February, we need to start thinking about the budget in October, and it's important that the corporate plan is aligned to that process. And so we'll start, thinking about drafts of the plan itself and the key actions in October, November, hopefully moving forward to have a plan approved by Cabinet in January, which will start from April the 1st, 2025. So that feels like quite a far way off, but when you take 2.5 months in the summer to consult, and then you get into the drafting and the thinking around resources in particular, it's not that a long time. So, but we're aiming for a January approval, and we're right on track for that. And in terms of the work of the group and what's coming from the leadership, this really is about putting forward a plan that's going to be aspirational and with sustainability at its heart. Recognising the budget position, and we have to live within our means, but also very, very keen that what we're doing, the work of the council, does reflect the needs of residents now and in the future. So, and part of this is really about the consultation and getting a real local view on what the council should be doing in local areas. And certainly, the theme, the priorities of communities and health and health of the economy and the environment are absolutely central to what's coming forward. So the underpinning principles and the UN sustainability goals, so United Nations sustainability goals, and this is quite unusual for a council to be thinking in this way. A number of councils are starting to do this. Some of the city councils, Newcastle, Liverpool, and actually neighbours Canterbury have started to think in this way as well. But this is about taking the UN sustainability goals, which have been signed up to by every member of the UN. So 17 principles and goals, if you like, as a framework for the corporate plan coming forward. And that's really described as a blueprint by the UN around how to achieve a more sustainable future. And broadly, there are 17 goals, but they fall under sort of categories of health, equality, well-being, economic growth, and good governance, and of course, environment. And one of the sort of strap lines that's coming out of this work is that very much it's about the council thinking globally but acting locally. And in terms of the services we deliver. And so this is not necessarily saying we change what we're doing wholesale, but you may see a change in the way we do certain things to focus on the environment and equality and communities and well-being in a way that we perhaps haven't done before. And so there's a graphic of the Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see it very wide-ranging. But the principle of using the goals as a framework is really to look at the themes of the corporate plan and align them across these development goals. So we can say that we are, what we're delivering as a council is supporting these goals, supporting sustainable development across everything we do. So I'll just leave that for a second so you can have a look at that there. But you can see it talks about, starting with poverty at number 1, all the way down to partnerships for goals and everything in between. And it's a very comprehensive list of goals that I don't think anyone can argue with it. These will be a very good foundation for the council's corporate plan and what we do moving forward. So onto the themes and priorities then. We've got 5 themes coming forward. Now, I'll just run through them fairly quickly. Tonight really wasn't about going into the detail of what they mean or what they mean for you. That's what the consultation is about. But the first one, a well-run, transparent and listening council that works closely with its partners. And as a working group, members were very, very clear that they wanted this to be at the front and number 1. Now, the themes and priorities aren't ranked in a hierarchy, but very much the message that they wanted to get over here is that getting a balanced budget, making sure that the council listens in a different way, build strong partnerships with town and parish councils and voluntary organisations, supporting local groups to do things is very much the sense of what's coming forward. And so you can see, I hope you can see there that in some of the guiding principles and the we will actions, these themes are coming through very strongly. So that's the first one. The second one is about improving people's health, well-being, and sense of community. And this is very much, I think, focused on a couple of key things. One is about working with our partners to deliver, particularly around health and community safety, recognising that the council can't deliver all these things, doesn't have the remit sometimes, and doesn't have the resources. But very much this needs to be around partnership and working with our colleagues in health, with colleagues in police and other aid organisations and the voluntary sector. And a lot of this, I guess, is about the council promoting and facilitating and encouraging actions of others as much as the council doing things itself. And then the third one we have is building new homes and improving quality of existing homes. And it was an interesting discussion with members at the working group because we had communities, health and homes on one slide to start with, but it was really clear that both the community side of this, but also housing and homes were so important that they should have their own themes and not be amalgamated together. And so you can see there that, that's a lot of what the council's currently doing, the aspirations around council homes and building more council homes to meet the needs of residents is very much still to the fore. And continuing our work around reducing carbon emissions in council homes, to not just about ensuring that they're safe, healthy and well maintained, but to support people through the cost of living crisis. And also continuing our work to address homelessness where we can. So a number of principles and actions there that are fairly consistent with what you'd expect, but I think a really strong theme about working with partners again throughout anything we do in housing. And then onto the economy and growing the economy in a sustainable way. And through this, there are some things that we're doing already, right at the bottom bullet point there. That's the Folkestone Town Centre Levelling Up Fund project. It's there, it started, we're moving it forward. And we'd like to find more opportunities to do that across the district, with the caveat that resources is the fundamental challenge we have. But we do know that, for example, in Rumney Marsh area, we've done some really great work in terms of the business hub, the Mountfield Road employment site, and there's other plans for projects at Coast Drive, for example. So we know that there are the regeneration projects that the council can lead and take forward itself. But also, we know that there's a whole lot that we can do to promote business and support business. We don't necessarily have a remit and a significant amount of resource to do the hands-on support, but we can signpost and encourage businesses to take up the support that's available from Kent and from government. All focused on that top bullet point around green technologies, building on the kind of strengths that are growing in high tech, but also the inherent strengths we've already got in the district around creativity and tourism. And then the final theme, if you like, addressing climate change and enhancing the natural environment and local character. And this is very much seen as, I guess, the one that underpins everything, and really brings to the fore the opportunities that the council is seeing to continue what we do, but do more of it and get better at it. And that's anything from reducing carbon emissions within our own operations, where we've made some significant progress, but we want to do more, to encouraging residents and businesses to do the same, and also recognising that there's a really strong role for the council here to advocate and to lobby to address issues in relation to water quality, for example. So again, some things the council can do, but a lot of things that the council should be working with others to achieve. So that's the 5 themes and priorities. Now on to consultation. So we started the consultation today, and we're going to run for 9 weeks. And members are very, very clear. They wanted to do things differently. They wanted to have an engagement that was much deeper, more granular, getting a real quantitative feedback, but also importantly, qualitative feedback from communities, from residents, and from businesses. So in the past, I think what we've done is we've had a mail out to 3,000 or 4,000 homes across the district with a survey on the consultation plan, on the consultation for the corporate plan, and asked them to respond to it, send it back in, and we've taken that and assessed the views. We're going to do things very differently this time. We want to make sure that we're getting representative samples from people across the district, so young and old, from rural areas, from urban areas, from businesses, from voluntary sector groups, and everything in between. But we are very careful to ensure that we can engage, any resident can engage with us. So whilst there's going to be a real focus online and some in-person work, there will always be an opportunity to provide written feedback or a written contribution to the survey if that's needed. So whilst, a real shift in how we do things, but if any resident wanted to have a paper copy of a survey that they could write and then send in, that will absolutely be available. And we will be doing a lot of promotion of the survey that I'll come on to in a minute, through our normal comms channels, if you like. But we'd also really like to work with parish councils and ask you to advocate on our behalf to spread the word to your local residents and to your members about the consultation and the opportunity that they have to genuinely influence the shape of the plan moving forward. So the activity that we've got planned, in a summary, we're going to be doing some focus groups, and some of these will be facilitated by the council, some will be facilitated by an external company, and we'll probably have around 6 focus groups. We had one this morning, actually, the very first one with local primary schools from across the district, and we had 7 primary schools represented, and that was done in-house by our staff, and I think has gone down very, very well, and some terrific feedback from very young people in terms of their thoughts on the future and priorities, and actually you can imagine the environment really came to the fore in some of the feedback. So we'll be engaging with secondary schools and young people. We'll be doing a business-focused telephone survey, reaching out to a dozen businesses and having probably a half-hour conversation with them around some of their thoughts, particularly on the economic aspects and business aspects of the corporate plan. And then we'll be inviting local residents onto focus groups as well, to have that sort of more deeper conversation around the themes that I've just described to you and their thoughts moving forward. The second step change is we're going to be doing some field research. So we'll have people literally out on the patch, knocking the door with copies of a survey, asking residents to complete a survey on the doorstep, as it were. And that was something that members were very, very keen on, because we recognised that making sure we get a reach into all areas of the district is so important. So at some point you may see, and you may get a knock on the door from somebody asking you to work with them to complete a survey. It wouldn't take very long to complete it. And we're hoping to do that for 10 days across the next 8 weeks or so. So we'll have somebody actually on the ground doing that. And then we have an online survey, which I'll come on to in a minute, and I can show you I can show you that how it sits live. And that's what we're really hoping to get a high number of responses to. And we're going to be encouraging elected members of the council, town and parish councillors, to complete the survey, give their views, and also reaching out to our database of voluntary groups and businesses and partners and stakeholders to do the same. So we've really, I guess, transformed the approach that we're taking to consultation this time around the plan, of the hope that we get, yes, a quantitative, a number of responses, but more importantly, that qualitative, real local flavour of the responses, which means that as we move forward to develop the plan and the actions, we'll have tested some of these for a local reaction and local input. Right, so if I now just try and get out of that one and take you on to the website, if that's okay. So we will be writing out to you as parish councils and with a briefing note on this and asking you to complete the online survey. But when you get into this to start with, this is the landing page so far on the website, which is pretty standard and just takes you through what I've run through in the presentation, actually. So it's the introduction, and then you can see here the 5 themes that we've talked about this evening. So that's what it looks like to start with. But then in the how you get involved bit, we've got 2 surveys. We're going to have one that's specific to an individual, so a resident, so that's an individual person, or one that can be filled out by a business or an organisation. They're largely the same, with a few subtle differences because of the nature of, for example, a voluntary organisation will perhaps respond on behalf of a number of different people that are involved in their group. So if I can, and I should have said that the deadline for completing responses is the 27th of September, and that will be heavily promoted through our comms team in the next couple of weeks and throughout the summer. So if you've clicked on the organisation survey, here's where you get to. So very much the sort of preamble that I've given you today, talking about the aspirations of the plan and the SDGs that are underpinning the framework, using the framework to underpin it. And then a little bit about what the group is and who you work for or with. And then into a couple of really interesting questions to start with. One is about, what do you think are the 3 most important things about the local area for communities that you work or support? And then tell us 3 ways that we as a council can work better with you as an organisation. And that's really playing to the theme that members are very keen on, which is understanding how we can do things better and more effectively on a local basis, and perhaps working with organisations at the same time. And therefore we lead into question 5, which is talking about other groups that we may want to interface and getting, building up that knowledge of local groups who you may think we should also be contacting. Now, when we get into the rest of the survey and the meat of the survey, if you like, I won't run through all of these, but you'll recognise here, this is the first theme that I described to you. And what we're saying is, it's basically a tick box. And we're asking if you tick the boxes that mean that are the most important points for your organisation or group. That might be one, it might be all of them. There's no limit because we're really keen to get a feel for what you think is important locally. And so you run through that there's one, and then at the bottom of that we give you the opportunity to have a free text box there to give some further feedback on why you've selected some of these options. And then that's repeated for all of the themes. So there's number 2, which was building new homes, and number 3, addressing climate change, and 4, growing the economy, and 5, improving health and well-being. I think the order of these might need to change a little bit, but anyway, you can see these are the questions that we're asking you to complete. And then when we get to the bottom, a question there about any other thoughts that you may have as a parish council, for example, about increasing the well-being of people or the environment. Recognising that, you know, the themes and priorities that we're putting in front of you, we think are pretty good, but they're not necessarily complete, and they don't necessarily reflect everything that you think about your local area. So getting that local feedback for you is so important, and very much at the front of members' minds. And this is an online survey. It is available in paper copy if required, but we're really encouraging groups to respond online, and it's by SurveyMonkey. It doesn't take very long to fill it out at all, and I think we're very hopeful of getting a really positive response. So if I stop sharing there, sorry, I've whizzed through a lot of that just now. I'm really happy to take any questions, Mike, but I think what I would say is that we're just very keen to ask you to advocate on our behalf, and very happy to follow up if there's any questions about how to complete the survey, or if you would like, you know, paper copies or anything like that. Very happy to facilitate that to support you in making a contribution. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, question from Paul Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ewan. That was excellent. That was very difficult thing to put across in the time you did. So thank you very much for that. Again, I think the way you've reflected it in terms of what was requested in terms of engagement with residents is vital, because as we know, and I'm sure we've all been in this boat, trying to get residents engaged in some of the things that we do at parish, town, and district level, it you know, can be incredibly difficult. So I think it's very commendable, the approach that's been taken here. I think there's a couple of things we can do to help ourselves as well, and I don't think I've mentioned this before. My son was a field interviewer for the Office for National Statistics for a number of years, and so the field research side of things is something that you know, I think is very interesting. But again, I think these days, and particularly with some of our aging population as well, people are very wary about who rings their doorbell, and we actually had the opportunity of using things like My Community Voice and the neighbourhood watch groups, just to make people aware that actually, if somebody does come to ring your bell in this time frame, and they've got the right credentials, then they will be asking things. But I think to make it clear through that kind of route, and then I think it will stop potential fraudsters, if you like, from jumping on the boat. But equally, put people's mind at rest if they've actually seen that in advance, to say this is actually what we're doing this time round, because I think that's absolutely essential. And as you've already alluded to, for town and parish councils to get this on their agenda early, to make sure that councillors read all the background material, and then to get that corporate full council view, it is imperative as well. And I know we've got the whole range of councils here, and it's easier to do sometimes because it's more relevant to a smaller council. But again, I think, as you've already alluded to make sure that we are cognizant of the fact that those councils that are generally urban rather than rural are likely to have slightly different focuses, particularly with things like transport and other stuff like that. So I think the way that that's been laid out and the way that we're looking for feedback on that is critical as well. So again, I think for me, making sure that we, through the Joint Parish Council, through the Calc Area Committee, and the communication out to the councils, we make it clear that we would like to get that feedback, because it's important. Everybody's voice counts in this, and the more people we get, the more resilient the plan we'll produce at the end of the day will be. But yeah, I think it's an excellent plan. I think the consultation plan and the length of time given to it as well, 9 weeks, is certainly pretty significant. But we also got to recognise we're also in competition out there. KCC have launched 2 consultations in the last 7 days as well. So again, it is that time of year. But again, I think there's plenty of time for us to get that feedback. So just a great job by yourself and by the team at the council to put this together. So thank you very much for that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Do you have any other questions? Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I think the consultation process is very good and fairly comprehensive. I suspect one of the main comments we get, Lim, obviously we're affected by the M20 corridor, which is really outside the remit of Folkestone Hythe, although we're on the receiving end of the congestion and pollution, but unfortunately have very little input into what can be done about it. So I'm not sure that people have a lot of comments about that, but I'm not sure this consultation that can actually deal with their worries. So it's just an observation more than anything else. It's difficult for you, I know, because all the controlling influences aren't within the Folkestone Hythe district, are they? They're all external. So I wonder how it develops, how that's going to be dealt with in the future, really. I'm not sure there's an answer anyone can give to it, because obviously, again, we get the backup from Dover, don't we? And then we get the congestion with Stack, and then the trickling out effect of people trying to find other routes to avoid the congestion. So a lot of people have comments about that, but it's not really something we can influence.
Yeah, if I can just respond, I think it's a very, very good point. I think though the issue that you're describing is so upfront for the council nowadays that I would be very surprised if something of this wasn't in our action plans to ensure that we're lobbying and pushing forward in terms of representing you as communities and pushing the government and pushing Kent County Council to do things better. So I think you're right. It's not within our gift to physically do anything, but I think that the lobbying, the nature of advocating on behalf of communities, I would suspect that what you're describing should be there as an action.
No, I was going to say, and it's like you alluded to earlier, isn't it? The things we can do ourselves and things we can't, but we can use our influence, use our voice. And the example there, I think, is the amount we've spoken out on sewage and water quality last year, and on buses as well. Neither things that we have direct influence or control over, but we've nevertheless used the council's voice strongly to speak up on those things with some limited success. So I think, yeah, definitely. Frank Hobbs. You're muted, Frank.
That's better. Yeah, I was just going to comment on a note that you've taken, obviously with the consultation, you've taken note that there are people who don't rely on IT to comment on various things. And there's a fairly large elderly population, or elderly part of the population that would struggle.
Yeah, and I think one thing that would be very, very helpful when we write out to you as parish councils is if you wanted we can print leaflets that you could perhaps help distribute, or we can easily provide paper copies of the survey if you thought there was a cohort of people in your area that would want them, as opposed to the online. Very happy to do that, but I think getting that local knowledge from you would be very, very helpful as we move forward.
I think, if I may, Mike, Frank has raised a very good point then. It was something we actually discussed at full council last night to do with the whole issue of digital connectivity with certain age groups and certain areas of the district. But again, I think looking at what is being proposed here, to utilise organisations like the Romney Marsh Community Hub, the Hythe Age Concern, where they've got direct access to quite a big client base, where they can actually help to facilitate that feedback on the things that are important to them, and again to recognise that that they have got a voice, and as I say, organisations like that would be absolutely ideal to tap into, to get the feedback from those groups who might well be digitally and socially isolated.
I did. We had a networking event at St Mary's Bay a couple of weeks ago, and I did highlight that this was coming then. And today I've asked the facilitator for that to send the link to the consultation through to everyone who was at the networking event, which included the Romney Marsh Community Hub, lots of other organisations as well. So we can begin that process. But I think it's not just about emailing them; it's about having those conversations with them as well, which I'll certainly be supporting in my role with communities to encourage a bigger response as we can, and as Ewan said, a kind of a deep response from people as well, not just a tick box exercise, but some good conversations that'd be really good. Is that a legacy hand, Mike, or you got another?
It was, yeah. It was just really as a compliment to show that consultation action does work. On a very minor point, we lost our bus service in Lim. There was a consultation, a lot of action from the district and all the councillors, and we got the bus service back. So it's not always a foregone conclusion that you can't achieve something by consultation and action at a local level to retrieve something on a more Kent-wide thing. So it's a positive thing, really. That was it.
Yeah, and again, I think just the learning really from the early stages of consultation we had on the move to the committee system, for example, where we had a very low turnout and very low response rate, which is probably more reflective of the fact that people care more about what you do rather than how you do it. And I think what Ewan's described today in terms of the corporate plan and then the action plan that will follow it is very much about what we're going to do, and an element of how we're going to do it as well. So again, I think there is the opportunity here with this to make sure people do understand that their voice is heard, and that the comments that they make could be included. But again, the more people we get to make the contribution, the better we'll be, the better informed we'll be, because this thing has to work. It's as simple as that, really. This has to work for us to be able to achieve our goals for well, certainly the next 3 years and beyond. So again, I think from that perspective, the change in tact this time in terms of consultation is to be applauded. So we can't be accused of not trying to get people's views, and I think as I say, I think it's an excellent vehicle we're using this time to get that input to the.
Gillian, do you have a question? Yep, you're not muted. Can't hear you at the moment. Oh, yeah, I think we've got you now.
Can't hear anything.
Yeah, can hear you. I could hear you a moment ago. Can't hear you now.
Do you want to type your question into the chat, Gillian, and then see if we can pick it up that way? Is that okay?
Might need to turn her sound up, possibly.
Anybody else got anything while Gillian's doing that? We don't all just look at her. she's fine.
I mean, if there's any follow-up questions, absolutely feel free to get in touch. But we will be writing out probably Friday or Monday to you with a kind of leaflet about this poster and more details about the web links and what we're going to be doing. And certainly, I think one thing that we will be doing is just monitoring as best we can where responses are coming in as we receive them. And so, for example, if we find that we're not getting a high enough response that we need from the Marsh area, we might reach out locally to you as parish councils and ask just to do a bit more promotion or ask for your advice on how we can get more responses. But I think I'll touch wood when I say this, but I'm fairly confident that we'll get that real spread of response from across the district. And I'm seeing Gillian's question there. That's one of the things that I'm going to be asking our elected members, our councillors, to be doing in relation to the corporate plan. We're meeting all-member briefing next week, and as officers, we just don't have enough of a time or resource to go out to lots of meetings. But I'm going to ask if members, if they're approached, would feel comfortable going to a meeting at a village hall or of a group to do something not dissimilar to what I've done tonight, just to talk about the plan and talk about how you can get involved.
I think it's a really good idea, Ewan, because I think it's a great opportunity anyway. I think most members would welcome that opportunity to talk about what the council does and what people want from their council and how we can work with people, and it just provides a good reason to have that kind of conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah. And perhaps a different face as well. Yeah. Talking to them is very useful sometimes in terms of unlocking what people would like to say to us as well. I think that's a great idea to get members involved in it.
Well, John and Jeremy, come to it. That's John Wing and Jeremy Speak. We come to our parish meetings every month. We've got one in early September, so I think what I might do is actually put that on the meeting as an agenda item. So we've got specific time to chat about that at the monthly meeting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. That'd be great.
I think it's really nice as well to be talking. They're often talking about quite negative things, but here we have a plan that kind of sets out a bit of a vision. Excuse me, for the rest of the decade. And obviously we can't do everything, but it's really nice to be talking about what can we be doing, how can we be doing it, and to have that opportunity, because the corporate plan is important, isn't it, Ewan, in terms of unlocking what we can then do with the kind of the work plans for the council in the future. If it's not in the corporate plan, then it's much harder to do that, isn't it?
Absolutely right, Mike. And I think that the sort of mantra as the kind of director and chief exec of the council, what we'd always say to members is, if it's in the corporate plan and it's got resource, then we can deliver it. When we haven't got a lot of resource, either staff or money, then it's very hard to bring things in from left field. That might be valid projects, but we'd have to be done at the expense of something else that was already seen as a priority. So getting views on what we should be doing as part of this consultation is really critical.
I'm going to ask if anybody else has got anything. I don't know if Peter, if you wanted to say anything or ask a question.
No, I haven't. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I've got nothing to add. I mean, everything that Councillor Thomas has said, I would have said, because he and I are on the same page. I apologise for trying to come in late. I was trying to get into the Teams thing, joining bit that you'd sent me. So, and it hasn't come up as a proper Zoom thing. So as you can see, you can't see my face or anything like that. Mind you, that's probably a good thing.
Well, if there's nothing else there, I'll give you 7 minutes of your evening back. And thanks everybody for your contribution. I think, as you said, Ewan, if anyone's got any questions that they think of later or anything, then I'm sure you'd be happy to receive those, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, and you can come back through, I guess, through Alex to committee services, and we can pass them on. No problem at all.
Or if there's
Yeah,
anyone
absolutely.
who's not here this evening that you speak to later about it, then do spread the word and encourage people to get in touch.